Ron Desantis in Florida. Okay, we're talking Florida, greatest state. It's Ron DeSantis decided to sign some new Florida voting restrictions into law yesterday.
A therapist today, poggers.
In a very unique move where I believe this was like a close circuit reveal. Like he wanted to unroll the Florida voting rights. Okay. But he wanted to do it like a YouTuber who's unboxing. So he limited the outlets that were there and did a Fox News exclusive.
Everyone, I'm Tanya Rivero. Thank you for joining us. We begin this hour in Florida, where Governor Ron DeSantis has signed new voting restrictions into law. The Republican says the new measures will help solidify public faith in election systems. This comes just months after the governor praised the security of the 2020.
By the way, that's part of the reason why there's no, I don't know.
Elections.
Hold on.
Critics accuse DeSantis of trying to make it harder for people to vote, particularly voters of color.
I love when, first of all, bitch, Donald Trump won. Like, what do you want? He won in the state of Florida. So, like, obviously that means that Florida's elections were intact and perfectly fine. So even after that, they're like, we still got to do something. We still got to do something. It's not enough that he won because Democrats still voted. And I don't like that. Okay.
The new restrictions place limits on who can drop off ballots.
So this is great. You know, basic stuff. Who can drop off ballots at drop boxes. Requires voters to sign up for mail-in ballots every year. Prohibits any actions that could influence those standing in line to vote. What an incredible way to fucking cover this, by the way. That is already a law. You cannot, it's called electioneering. There are electioneering laws in every state. This is not that. This provision is to prohibit people from giving water and food, similar to the Georgia law in the state of Florida, if people are waiting in line. For the record, it is literally illegal to do electioneering already in the state of Florida and everywhere else. This is just banning water and food at lines.
Ballots and when they can do so. It also requires voters to sign up for mail-in ballots every year. The law also prohibits any actions that could influence those standing in line to vote. That means nonpartisan groups can no longer hand out food or water to people waiting in the hot Florida sun. Governor DeSantis signed the bill live on Fox News earlier this morning.
Look, I'm not a fan of drop boxes at all, to be honest.
He literally did a Fox and Friends exclusive, dude. How crazy is that? Like he just did a Fox and Friends exclusive. Like he apparently they wouldn't allow local news to be there to film it. Bitch, you're the governor of Florida. What are you doing? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, how are you going to fucking restrict your own state's local broadcasters from attending this signing ceremony to give the rights to like Fox and Friends, dude? That's wild to me. It's an incredible thing.
Be honest with you, but the legislature wanted to keep them, but they need to be monitored. You can't just leave these boxes out where there's no supervision.
Again, I want to ask Ron DeSantis, like, why are you doing these? Why are you, if all of these restrictions were not in place and Florida still ended up voting for Donald Trump, so what's up? Are you saying that your state elections were fraudulent? Like, why would you add additional restrictions if your system was working? It's kind of confusing. Kind of weird, dude. Kind of weird. I don't know what's going on there.
Where they're in all hours of the night. So the drop boxes will be available only when they're monitored.
So I don't even have a problem with like limiting the areas of drop boxes. Like, it's kind of stupid to do so because they're already incredibly secure. But let's say you limit the areas where you can have drop boxes, right? To election stations, to polling booths and whatnot. What is really fucking insane about that is that they are restricting it to business hours, dude. They're restricting it to business hours. Round-the-clock monitor, round-the-clock surveillance, fine. But restricting it to business hours literally means that it doesn't matter. Like, I don't want you to fucking vote. Like, if you are... The entire purpose of drop boxes is so that you don't have to wait in line and you can very quickly and easily engage in this democratic process, your civic duty, without fear that you're going to lose your job. And they're like, no, fuck that. We're defeating the entire purpose of drop boxes because we don't want drop boxes. That's it. It's such fucking dog shit. It's such dog shit. And the exclusive purpose for this is we don't want poor people to fucking vote. If you have a job, fuck you. We don't want you to vote, dude. We don't want you to fucking vote. Don't vote, you poor fuck. Just know your fucking place. It's filth. It's nothing. Your voice does not matter. We do not want you to fucking vote here, okay? That's it. That's literally what this is.
And during regular voting...
Poor people don't know what boxes are? That's not what I'm saying, you fucking jackass. I'm talking about I'm talking about fucking having drop-off locations capped at within business hours, which literally defeats the purpose of having a drop-off or a drop-off location or a drop box in general.
Hours.
For more on this, let's...
And the math works in their favor. You do the math, you realize that more Democrats voted by mail in the state of Florida than Republicans did, despite the fact that Florida is a very heavy vote by mail state for obvious reasons, because there's a lot of old people in the state of Florida. So the reason why they're doing this is because if we eliminate drop-off or if we restrict drop-off locations and put additional burdens and additional hurdles to fucking vote by mail, then we'll technically have, more Democrats lose out than Republicans.
Bring in Adam Brewster. He's a CBS News political reporter. Adam, welcome. So remind us how this law actually came to fruition and what has been the general reaction so far, both there in Florida and, across the country.
Well, certainly, Tanya, this is a trend we've followed and talked about at length across the country. Republican lawmakers trying to amend their voting laws after the 2020 election. This bill, in Florida went through several iterations. There were some controversies.
Remember, the reason why Florida's voter laws were changed was because Republicans engaged in some fuckery that allowed George W. Bush to become president in the year 2000. So that's literally why Florida completely remapped their voters process, their voting rights, and allowed more ease of voting and all this other stuff. And it was still successful for the state of Florida from a Republican point of view. Like, Republicans were still fucking voting and winning elections in Florida, except, and they did win last time around as well with Donald Trump. So it's additionally silly to add, I get why people are doing it in Georgia, right? I get why Georgia would do it. It's still demon-like, and it's still fucked up that they're doing it, because the only purpose for this is to say, we don't want people to vote. We just don't want you to have your voice be heard. We don't want democracy. We don't want that. Our pathway to winning elections revolves around eliminating people from voter rolls and making it as hard as possible for people to vote. So it makes me so fucking mad, dude. It's so whack.
Controversial provisions, including banning ballot drop boxes or requiring people to show ID when they use ballot drop boxes that didn't make it in.
So close-minded. Explain yourself, real mega hype. Let's hear it from the big brain here. Let's hear it.
To the final product. Instead, there are just restrictions on things like hours of access and requiring there to be someone from the election supervisor's office, as you heard Governor DeSantis talk about there. And you're right, he did praise Florida's election system. He said this is about staying ahead of the curve, not resting on their laurels. That's kind of been his message and the message from Republicans throughout who applauded this process. Democrats have pointed out that this comes after an election with record mail voting, and when Democrats cast about 680,000 more mail ballots than Republicans did. and they say this is about, making it harder for people to access mail ballots. The president of the NAACP, Derek Johnson, called it a blatant and calculated attack on the right to vote. He said we should be working to expand voting to strengthen our democracy as opposed to restricting and limiting the American people's sacred right to participate in elections. He called the new bill a horrifying reminder at the fragility of democracy. That has sort of been what we've heard from Democrats, voting rights, civil rights.
Yeah, I just talked about that. Governor of Florida, Ron Desantis, literally did not allow any media to enter the room for the signing ceremony except for Fox News, so he could functionally make this a Fox and Friends exclusive. I can't believe this guy just comes in here, says I'm fucking closed-minded, and then just leaves. Like, this shit makes me so mad. Idiot.
Rights groups, in states around the country, not just
people
Florida,
cry about not having a
passed.
diversity of opinions on this show. I'm so fucking
so,
one-sided. And then as soon as I want to hear from them, they're like run away like a little bitch.
Democrats have any way to combat this law down the road, or some of these voting rights activists you were mentioning?
It's through the courts, and we've already seen at least one lawsuit that's been filed challenging some of the provisions in Florida's law that add some of the new restrictions. We've seen groups challenge laws that have been passed in Georgia, in Iowa, and Montana.
What the fuck are the Republican arguments for this? They just create a boogeyman that does not exist in the form of voter fraud that literally does not exist. Like, it's just not a real thing. It is never been, and it will most likely never be a genuine problem that changes the outcome of elections or anything like that. And Republicans lie routinely and say like voting fraud is something that happens all the time, and that's why we need to have these protections. It literally doesn't happen. It's not real.
Montana, these will be, long, drawn-out fights, and this issue of voting rights is going to be one of the key issues in the 2020 midterm elections. At these state levels where governors have signed laws, it will probably play a role in the discourse of Senate elections, as we've seen, potential changes from the federal level that have kind of stalled in the Senate. We might see that kick back up in the conversation in the next couple of weeks, and there will continue to be discussions about the filibuster. This is going to be an issue that's a critical campaign issue. For now, what Democrats can do in a lot of these states, especially once they're done, the only way to really fight back is taking court action. We've seen those court cases go. Of course, it remains to be seen what judges will do with these lawsuits, whether they will take them and whether they'll strike.
Okay.